So I'm trying to do it in as seamless a way as possible so that they can feel that it's not an interrogation, but a conversation. So I'm trying to follow where she's taking me. I'm not going down my list. I have my template in my head, and I've done this enough that I can follow along. If someone does have pressured speech and it's hard to get a word in edgewise unless you interrupt, how would you do that? I would say, depending on where they were going in their story, I would wait for a breath and say, I'm noting that, your sister did that or whatever, and we'll come back. But for now, I've got another question, if that's okay. So I let them know I hear them. I take a note of it. I'm not dismissing it. I just don't need to go into the depth of that right now. And basically what I'll say is, right now I'm just trying to get an overview so I can give you some help today, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about all of this. Okay. And my first session is when I'm most directive. I'm directive in other sessions. I am listening for where they want to be. I do strict, typical IFS work unless we're talking about mediation information. But that first time I'm together, when I'm getting all the information, when I'm giving them the self up the mountain, when I'm working with their parts and introducing the whole concept of self and parts and compassionate communication, this is the framework I use to give me all the data I need. You don't have to use it. You don't have to use any of it. You can use a genogram with an individual client you have. If you have two kids at school that are fighting with each other, it's sometimes helpful to know what kind of family they come from. So this works wherever. Just pick and choose. It doesn't have to be dogmatic.
If they were both there, would you ask her about his family of origin?
My initial interview is done individually. Usually one of them called me. So I will interview the one that didn't call me first so that they don't feel I'm talking to the one that called and having an alliance with them. I'll ask them how long they've been married, if they have children, just generic questions. And then I'll say, I don't care who I talk to first. And sometimes I'll just say, who's got the earlier birthday? I'll always talk to the one that I didn't talk to on the phone first. And if it's up in the air, then I'll say, who's got the earlier birthday? Or something like that. But I won't ask them the questions that they're going to reveal themselves until they've told me, and then I integrate that into the conversation.
Question is, Linda, wondering if or when you would ask about other addictions in the family of origin in addition to alcohol.
I don't necessarily need to know about the other addictions in the initial interview. I know that there's some dysfunction going on. If everybody was not drinking, I might go into, what kind of drug use do you do, or do you use marijuana? But it's not usually part of my initial interview necessarily. Because it'll come up as a problem. Usually if it's a big enough problem, the parties will say, I can't stand that he smokes so much pot. He's always stoned. Then I know. So if they're not talking about it, I don't need to dig for it, especially when I know there's another addiction that's already out there. But that's a good question.
Wondering if you would ask them if the interview has brought anything up for them. It seems that the prescribed questions are initiating more processed thoughts or feelings for the client.
I am triggering all of their parts. I am triggering their exiles. I'm triggering their managers. I'm triggering their extreme parts. And when I then have them together and explain how they trigger each other and we do the self up the mountain, then their parts calm down. I notice what parts are coming up for them so that we can bookmark it to come back to. But I don't want in this first session to go on a tangent that I can't finish, because my initial goal is to get them to have empathy for each other in this first session.
And to walk. If you are working individually with a client, do you ever open it up to do work if the individual requests it?
Yes. I work with couples. I work with individuals within the couples if they both want to work with me. I'll start with an individual, and if an individual's partner is willing to come see me, but I often make sure that if they do come see me, they may have their own session with me first if they've been working, if the other one's been working with me alone, or for certain when they come together, that partner gets maybe a half hour, maybe 40 minutes of the first session working with me and feeling safe with me before I put them back together. So yes.